It's another day, it's another period, it's another long story of the journey of Nollywood with masters in that area. I still have with me Peace Anyiam-Osigwe, the president-in-chief and all of African Movie Academy, the popular African Movie Awards, and filmmaker and Nollywood activist, Mahmood Ali Balogun. You're welcome back.
Advocate.
Back.
Yes, not activist, advocate.
Okay, advocate. Advocate. You are too old to be an activist now. Exactly. Okay, I understand the frustrations active members of this industry go through, and sometimes it's revealed in your passion and when you talk. But the fact on ground, as I see, is there appears to be a dichotomy in the industry between the young and the old. The young people claim that you guys want to be invincible, you don't want to leave, and you are trying to arrogate all kinds of things to yourself. And one of the proponents you mentioned, you just mentioned while you're talking, there's a chap you mentioned there.
Confusion Noah.
No.
Yeah, OC something.
Yeah, CJ.
Yeah, he's one of the proponents of this new Nollywood kind of a thing. Now the action is precipitated by Mopicon, the old Mopicon, and you are the drivers of hopefully the new Mopicon. Their aggro is too much regulation, as it were, in the system. You have mentioned this comatose bodies that are basically like dead woods in the industry. And they're saying enough of this regulation that have not worked. Why do you want to do Mopicon again that was going to be regulatory instead of being self-regulatory? That the biggest industries in the world, they are self-regulated.
What is Mopicon?
Mopicon is motion.
No, what I mean in terms
picture.
of regulation,
Yeah.
it is self-regulatory. We are going to be regulating ourselves under Mopicon. It's not a government agency.
It's an act of law.
The reason that it's an act of law is that we as Nollywood, and before you can advise me about, you're a creative, Faj. I don't want to ask you a question. Does creativity have an age?
No, it doesn't.
So I don't understand new Nollywood and old Nollywood because I don't know that there is an age for filmmakers.
I think it's a matter of perspective.
Their perspective, it depends. I mean, they're looking at it as age. They're already old. My niece is coming up. She's only 15. She's got a series coming up for young people. So he's 27. So now he's old. So we have digital Nollywood coming on board. So, I mean, let's not talk about new Nollywood and old Nollywood because it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
As far as I'm concerned,
because I'm still making
it shouldn't exist.
Yeah, it shouldn't
it does
exist.
not
It doesn't
exist.
exist.
They exist in their mind space, as far as I'm concerned.
It's a creation of a few.
It's just,
Right.
can I put it this way? It's, unfortunately, we as Nollywood are the biggest hypocrites amongst ourselves. The so-called old Nollywood, you will be surprised, are the people who are pushing a new Nollywood agenda as well, because some of it is just so that there is no structure, because the lack of structure is what allows us to have an industry where that nothing seems to be understood. So even to have a voice, to be able to lobby government on things that have really substantial impacts on our creativity as creative people, be it the piracy issue, be it distribution. And when we talk about distribution and piracy, we're not just talking about film. Piracy is in every form of creativity in Nigeria. And so is distribution a major problem for every form of creativity in Nigeria. So when we want to talk about these two areas, everybody should understand that it is not about peace. It's not about Mahmood. It's not about FAJ. It's not even about age. It's about our job. I have done nothing else all my life than creativity from the age of 9. So I am not suddenly going to change and start looking to practice law, which I have not practiced. But I said to people when they read the Mopicon document, yes, it may sound draconian, but like Mahmood said earlier, it was something that was written at a particular time. Now, the irony for me as somebody that is chairing the review committee was the fact that 80% of the people who were shouting, Mopicon, 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 had not read the document until recently when the minister threw it back at us and said, go and review it. And then all of a sudden, one of the biggest agitators from Mopicon suddenly said, oh no to Mopicon. And I was like, how? I have newspaper articles of you calling for Mopicon. I, at one point, was never for Mopicon, with the late Amakaiigwe. We stood against Mopicon. When Frank Weke wanted to do, we stood up against it because of this version of Mopicon that was released. Amakaiigwe said no, and I said no, because there were parts of it that we didn't agree. But some of the biggest agitators at that time, newspaper articles, suddenly came out when this review committee was set up and said no to Mopicon. And I was like, I brought out articles going back 10 years, 8 years, 6 years, that you were shouting Mopicon. Didn't you read the document
over 10
then?
years. Really, if we want to look at the Mopicon issue, I think it has something to do with age or new Nollywood, old Nollywood. I think, what are we looking at here? You said it that, I mean, we've all said it here. The agencies responsible for the industry right now are assuming regulatory roles. They are not regulatory, they are developmental, right? Yes, one of them has that, the census board has that regulatory aspect to it in terms of the kind of films we churn out, in terms of ratings and other classification. So maybe in that light, you can call them a regulatory body. But the NFC ain't a regulatory body. It's a developmental agency, right? We don't have a regulatory body right now.
Should you have?
No. You see, the peculiarity of our environment, right, is what is determining our clamor for us to have a regulation in place. And this regulatory body we are talking about is a regulatory body that will be managed by practitioners through the council, something akin to APCON, the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, right? Like she said, those who are clamoring against it are those who are benefiting from the kind of chaos that we have on the ground. Right now, the industry is so hydra-headed. We can't seem to come together in this, divided, to take decisions on anything. We are saying that, look, if we have such a body, right, we will be able to have a kind of cohesion where things affecting us will be able to put across with one voice, right? Yes, there will be regulations here, there will be entry level and entry level. And it's not for everybody. If you don't want to belong, you stay outside. Are you get what I'm saying? There are people who I know who practice advertising today who are not members of APCON. And hold on, they may be doing it illegally, but the point is that they exist. So we are saying that this thing we're trying to put in place will affect only people within the council.
But it has a power of coercion.
No.
The power of sanction.
Let me explain.
I mean, using the old.
Let me explain this.
I think it's a little superfluous if you don't know what is new.
No, let me explain. That's why I don't really want to discuss the details of Mopicon until we have been given the go-ahead to release the new draft copy and then put it out to people. The problem we have is everybody, as you know, in Nigeria is a professor in everything.
Exactly.
So even those that don't understand what you're trying to do, when they read it, in America, under the Screen Actors Guild, if you're going to work with a member of a studio, if you're going to work with a SAG member and you're a studio, but you're not registered and you don't want to work with the unions, you have to pay for that particular actor's dues and all his pensions and his insurance for your particular film, even if you're an indie. This is the same thing that Mopicon is trying to be, so that if you come into the country to work with a studio, or if I go to work with anybody, there are certain guild code of ethics, which is the real issue behind what we're saying about our profession. So that when you say a script is a script, you know that is a script. And when you call a cameraman, you're sure that he can read the manual that you're giving him of the new camera and not tell you that the lens is not the lens you're supposed to use. I have had cameramen come on my set and say to me, a new camera. And I said to him, he says to me, Madam, your camera is not working. I said, why? And it's a new camera. Guess what? He hadn't read the manual and he didn't know that the shutter was on. As simple as that. So these are the things that we've had to deal with because of the way Nollywood has grown. But one thing we also have had to take into consideration in the new draft is how Nollywood started and the Nigerian spirit that determined Nollywood cannot be taken away by Mopicon.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
But that is the strength of Mopicon, is to recognize that there was a Nigerian spirit that drove this thing to become an industry and drove the world to recognize us because of the spirit we have. So why would we now sit back here and say we're going to take away that je ne sais quoi spirit that we have, that we can do it spirit? No be us, we go do our. We have that, and nobody's going to take that away. That's taking away the passion and the creativity. But what we're saying is that we cannot, because we want the passion and the creativity, take away from the professionalism that needs to come on board. So we need to work together hand in hand to merge the passion, the Nigerian spirit, and the professionalism, and that's what we're trying to do with Mopicon.
Okay, please, I'll speak for the, since none of the, well, is it, we should not go, there's no new, there's no old. I'll speak for those perspectives when we come back as a devil's advocate for them. And I would like to know, we are fond of using the American as a tablet for digital revolution. They want to be as good as this. We're third in the world because America is first. Bollywood is second. We are third. But when it comes to Mopicon, you say there's a Nigerian character. We'll come to that. No, I'm taking a break. Okay. We'll come to that. I've been talking with Mahmood Ali Balogun. Please, Anyiam-Osigwe. This is the hot part that we don't want to talk about. We'll talk about shortly. I'll be back. Okay, we are talking Mopicon. Actually, all you hear is Mopicon. I'm wondering where the I comes from. It's Motion Picture Practitioners of Nigeria. Council, of Nigeria.
Motion Picture Council of Nigeria.
Okay.
Motion Picture Council of Nigeria.
So where is the I from? Mopicon.
From picture.
Picture, Mopicon. Okay.
Mo from motion.
Okay, I got it.
Picture.
Okay.
Right. Council.
Okay.
Right. Motion Picture Council of Nigeria. Right. You will say something about us before the break. Us using other climes as standard.
Yes, because the America in the 20s when they started their regulations, they realized that government actually started the move.
Right.
And then they anticipated that if they allowed them,
yes,
it will worsen. So they integrated their own self-regulation that developed over time.
The American industry
even it was harsh at the point they had to,
The industry today in America is over 200 years old. Right? Here we're barely 50. Right? The point I want to make is this, right? When you talk about self-regulation in America, right, you can't just get up in America and want to crank a camera professionally.
Yeah.
Right? You have to hone your skill. You must have had some kind of antecedent in terms of training.
Then they're saying you can't do that. Why do you need government?
Hold on. Because of that, and because they've been there, they've practiced over the years, they've been able to put in place certain structures that everybody aligned to. That is absent here. Like I said, we are hydra-headed. Everybody can just wake up in Nigeria today and want to be a filmmaker. Is it a country where you see where there are laws guiding traffic regulation that we still break it consistently. Now, in a creative industry where anything goes, you want people to have that opportunity to say, look,
self-discipline.
So self-discipline is the issue, really. And we are saying that, look, if we have that enactment, we'll be able to bring some level of sanity into our practice. And we'll be able to get things done appropriately. You see, in terms of the sanctions that people are talking about, right, if there are laws, definitely there will be sanctions for those who break it, right? But it's how this thing is broken that is important, and how you implement the penalty you're going to give. You see, in the old document, right, yes, there are certain things that people say. I was part of that, right? It was because, as at that time, that was about 11 years ago, right?
It was a wild west.
It was a wild, exactly, right? The marketers were complaining, the filmmakers were complaining. People were just doing things randomly. So we had those measures in place to check those things. Today, right, it may not be what you see. That is why we have the review. Review has looked at so many of these complaints. That was why it was posted in the first place, for people to look at it, read it, and see where we can adjust.
Okay, there's an issue. While Peace was talking, you mentioned the fact that, I mean, it appears contradictory to me. You mentioned the fact that there's going to be an enactment, an act of law, but the industry is the one that is self-governing.
All members of the MOPICON are the guilds of the Nigerian film industry.
Yeah.
It is us regulating ourselves. But we're putting a kind of rubber stamp on it so that we stand by what we abide by, because we have not refused to regulate ourselves. Do you understand?
So when you say the guilds make up the MOPICON.
Yes.
The guilds already, as Mahmood had painted, are hydra-headed.
No, but you see, the
you have probably 4 or 5 well-defined.
Well,
guilds,
inside MOPICON, there are structures to make
well,
all
the
the
guilds
guilds
more.
We are going to have.
They're going to be streamlined, and they're going to be more strengthened to be able to protect their members, and also to regulate their members to be professional. Now, let me give you an example.
The guilds will be national guilds. You see, like today, we have producers guilds in almost every sector, right? You have directors guild, more than one. You have actors guild, more than one. You have screen. So with MOPICON, you have one guild per profession, per industry. Like you have one actors guild to be a national guild. You have one directors guild. You have one producers association.
So you have this subsector of your production will have a guild.
Exactly.
And yet you can be an independent.
Yes.
Exactly. So that you wouldn't have this challenge.
There's an independent, well, it presupposes that there's no guild, but what is the stake in MOPICON?
Well, if you're as an independent, you behave like an independent.
We have a large army of independents, for instance.
That's fine.
That's
in
fine.
America, there's a large army of independents. In London, there's a large army of independents. If you want to get certain benefits and work with certain studios, then you abide by those rules and take out the insurance and take out all the costs that need to go with it. And if you decide you don't want to, and somebody decides to work with you without protecting themselves as well, that is also fine. There is no dictatorship in creativity.
Okay, let me ask this. Either of you can take that. You are in the nexus of this new creation. Are you saying on television that there is no single member of government in MOPICON? Council, when it is formed, if it is accepted as you have done it?
You see, the way it's being structured.
Every member is, because I know APCON has certain...
the members of the government are from our regulatory bodies, our bodies, NFC,
support agencies.
The support agencies, let's put it that way.
Okay, exactly.
Those are the people, but they are not making up the secretariat of this.
And they are they're non-performing. All they're there for is to also see what we're doing and chip in whatever perspective.
Another accusation against
it's not a government thing.
Old brigade.
Okay.
You don't want to call it. Another accusation is you guys are just building nests of relevance. That if you see at the end of the day, when you have the council and when you have its governing council or its secretariat, as we call it, there will be people by
the old
brigade who have even lost relevance, who have not even done filmmaking in many years.
During the new composition of the Mopicon Review Committee, the so-called new Nollywood were given 2 slots to come on board. They don't belong to any guild. They don't belong to any association. So we had to open it up to them to say, okay, bring your own voices to this, because this is not about us and you. This is about all of us. Yeah. You understand? And anything that anybody is doing right now affects all creative entrepreneurs in Nollywood. Therefore, I got a message from one of them that said to me that my constituency does not allow me to be part of the review committee. And this whole voices now went on the social media and started making a lot of noise. And I said to him quite nicely, I said, well, I've learned one thing. You can make all the noise on the outside, but if you want to make a change in your environment, you must be part of the change. And the change begins with you. It's not about government. You see, the problem is everything in Nigeria, people want to blame the government for it. I am not blaming anybody for the problems we have in Nollywood. We blame ourselves because it comes from also our attitude to our professionalism and the fact that instead of realizing that creativity is a complement of different parts and that we all complement each other, in Nigeria there seems to be a real struggle to be the one on top of a pyramid. I am the leader of the pack. And so I always tell people the truth. I said, listen, when it comes to creativity, you are your own self-leader of the pack. You can't tell me I made a bad film. It is my film. You may hate my film. I may love my film. Another audience may think, wow, this is beautiful. Somebody else around the corner will think rubbish. Let me give an example. At a time that this year, the film Wives on Strike, Omoni Oboli's film, sell out at the cinemas. I actually went to the cinema like 4 times to watch that film, and most of the time I queued, and I wouldn't get in. Now, you can get in there and you'll see the film and you think, oh, this has picture quality problems. But hey, the people that film was resonating with did not care about all that stuff you and I are talking about. So what I'm trying to say to you is that when it comes to creativity, there isn't any understanding about age and all this new Nollywood thing. They need to understand that nobody's trying to stop you from being creative. You have to be a creative. Do you understand? You have to understand that we're saying, come on board, be part of this, and let's grow this industry together.
Okay. Let me make some
very short one.
Yes, very short one. You said something about those who will populate the council. The council is going to be made up of the guilds. And the guilds have their membership. The guild, you become a member of a guild, who is a member. The guild is a member of the council. So you nominate from the guild into the council. It's not by appointment.
Not in position.
Not in position.
And not promotion.
The council does not nominate anybody. The guilds, the constituent guilds and associations of the council, of the Mopicon Council, are the ones that will nominate people into the council.
Into the council. You hear that? That's on his honor. It's guild that will be in the council, and we are going to have a strong, virile guild structure so that everybody will have a sense of belonging. It's been talking to Peace, Anyiam-Osigwe, and Mahmood Ali Balogun on the cantankerous issue of Mopicon. I hope we have settled some part of it. And in talking, we haven't spoken about Toronto, we haven't spoken about the other festival in London and all that. But we hope to have some other time, sometime, maybe when you come back from Toronto. Thank you so much, Peace. Thank you, Mahmood, for coming. This has been an interesting, I believe, informative and educating episode of FAJ-Alive. Thank you for being part of this.